All right, guys, I'm going to send you over to this University of Northern Colorado video in a minute here. Okay, so I've been really excited because I was recently invited to participate in a masterclass panel. So it was a mini panel and it was for the University of Northern Colorado. And it was via Zoom and it was a panel with Chrissy Tignor, who I will link to her in the description below. I'll link to her stuff. She's really cool. She does audio engineering and music stuff too. And she's done some really cool projects. So I was beyond flattered to be put on a panel with her. And I was invited by Socrates Garcia. So he's a professor at UNC. And so he invited me onto the panel, and he was also the host for the panel. So we had a great time. We just chatted in Zoom about audio engineering and music production and our experiences in our careers so far. And it was a great time. It was a lot of fun. So for my content for this week, what I wanted to do is I've picked out a clip of this interview. It's about 10 minutes long, I believe. And I just wanted to play the clip for you guys. And if you're interested, I'm going to put a link in the description so you can go check out that full video. So please go check out that link in the description, check out the full video. What I'm about to play here is just a portion of this whole panel. So the whole panel, I think, was a little over an hour long. And I guess I'll roll the clip now. So it's a clip from the middle of the interview. Again, if you're interested, check out the links in my description. I would love to be able to funnel some people over to Socrates' channel. So thanks for hanging out, guys. Let's roll this clip.
So that goes to your question, Connor. Actually, I hope that helps. He's asking about how do you get equipment to start, because it's they are expensive, of course.
The way I did it is I slowly started buying things, and I was assisting and then working in other people's studios. And I was just buying things the whole time really slowly. So a lot of this stuff I've had for a long time. And then, at some point you start getting a little more momentum and you can get more gear, and uh it kind of takes off a little bit at some point, but it's tough.
Yeah, I think like if you think about what you really, really need day to day and like start there, that's the best place to start because a lot of, when you see a bunch of like hardware and you're like, oh, an Apollo and I'm using an external like hardware preamp and it's going into an external compressor and all that stuff, like a lot of times you don't necessarily need that right away. Like for example, the Apollo interfaces have like what are called the unison preamps. So you can have like a virtual version of some of these hardware pieces of equipment, which of course is not going to be exactly the same as using hardware, but like that works really, really well, especially if you're on a budget. Like for sure, it works really well. And I think, yeah, building it over time because it takes a long time. Like I have been building this over the last like 10 years. And now I have, 8 pre's, right? I would love to have 16 to go into my Apollo X16 eventually, but I still don't have the other 8 because I'm building slow. So I think that like as long as you're not like blowing all of your money on a bunch of things that you don't need, then yeah, you're going to be really, really set up for success. I think what everybody needs though in audio, just generally, you need some sort of computer. You need a pair of reliable headphones for sure. I think you also, like, if you really want to get serious about stuff, have a nice, reliable pair of monitors. They don't have to be super expensive. Like we just said, Callie's a really great recommendation for that. And then like your interface and a mic, even just one mic, you can start off there. Figure out which mic works well for you, like what sounds good on you. Like you can try if you have access to a studio, you can see what sounds good on your voice. There's also secondhand stuff, amazing, but then you have like companies like Warm Audio who make these recreations of classic gear, and it's honestly like, I mean, seriously, the Warm Audio 87 sounds really, really, really good. Okay, nothing's gonna beat a Neumann U87. We all know this. It's like, a classic. But the Warm Audio version is actually really good. And I think that you can absolutely get away with spending money on, things to start off with and eventually build up to those bigger pieces of gear. But yeah, you don't need a lot to start. And you definitely don't necessarily need all those extra little bells and whistles that we've just talked about. But maybe you do. Maybe eventually.
Yeah. I totally agree about like the whole prioritizing it thing. Like when I only moved here to this location in August. And before that I was in my condo, and I kind of had a similar setup to what you have, where it's like a big open space and it was like a loft. So there's a drop behind where I was sitting. And what I did there is I knew I didn't have enough space to have like the whole recording side of things really. So what I focused on was acoustic treatment and stuff that would be help me with mixing. So good headphones, acoustic treatment, stuff like that. It's you just think about what you're going to be doing and then try to kind of triage it. So for me, I was like, well, I can start doing some mixing remotely before I can start doing, other things. So let's focus on the gear that helps me mix remotely, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and Connor, I think also not thinking about buying like both of them said about buying everything at once, because that is not going to happen. I mean, I've shown you my studio, in you've seen it, but all of this gear is being little by little. I mean, some of these amps I have here have been with for over 20 years, and some of the mics I have been with me over 20 years. And then, of course, at some point you decide to go crazy and buy stuff,
Mhm.
but and then you're in debt for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a good question here actually, uh, from Elijah. What tips do you have for networking and meeting new people in the industry?
You want to go first?
Sure, I'm like really awkward, so like I'm not very good at networking.
Me too.
I gotta be honest. I tend to be like not shy, but I don't know. I just am not that good at like if I'm put in a situation where it's exclusively for networking. So like an event that's just about like meeting people and stuff, I start to like get really weird and I'm like, ugh. But I do think that social media, I know love and hate social media, but social media makes a huge difference. And it's finding the social media, whatever type of social media you like to use, but finding the one that works best for you and connecting with people that way. I can't tell you enough how much that has helped me. Just like through social media and what you post. And people start to get to know who you are if you post consistently. If you use hashtags that folks are really interested in, and things like TikTok right now, like you can really, if you can figure out that formula of like using the right hashtags or doing the right trends or like that sort of thing to bring attention to you like as a creator, not just like as a musician, but bring attention to you and what you do. That's a real advantage that I think a lot of folks should take advantage of it. Social media makes a big difference. And I also think that like if I go back to the beginning of my career, like how I got started, this is pre-social media. So right now I'm like social media, amazing. But like I got started pre social media. There was just like Facebook at the time, and Facebook was not like that. It was very much like for college students, like when it started out. So um when I first got started, I actually cold called every studio I could find in London. Like I just went through, I Googled because Google was there. I Googled every studio and production company that I could find in London, and I called them all. Like, and I pretended I knew who I was going to talk to. Like, I pretended they were expecting my call. Like, hey, can I speak to Joe, the studio manager, please? And they're like, oh, who's this? I'm like, yeah, my name is Chrissy. I'm just calling to discuss like working together, or I sent an email. I'm following up on the email I sent, etc. And you wouldn't believe how successful that is because people are afraid to call on the phone, especially more now. Back then it was weird. It's weirder now to call. And I think that like you don't necessarily have to get on the phone with people, but I do think that there's an advantage of like putting a voice or a face to a name because people start to remember who you are. And like Cato said too, like a lot of the work that I got was word of mouth from other people, referring me to certain things. But most of those connections started by me just being really bold and just reaching out to people that I knew would not care what I had to do, like what I was doing with my life. Like they didn't probably had no idea who I was, didn't care, but it worked because it got them in the room with me, right? So this was all pre-COVID too. We always have to take those considerations, but I would get these people on the phone and I would ask to set up a meeting on the phone and just say, hey, I'd love to show you my work and see if we can work together. Can we set up a meeting in person? And like when you got them on the phone, it's hard for them to be like, Actually, no, I'm not interested. Like, most of them will actually meet you, and if you can get in that room with people so they hear your music so that you're there in person talking to them, I think that makes a difference. More so than just a DM. DMs work. They do. Like, you can DM people. But yeah, I think just going that little bit of an extra, it definitely helped me. I
Yeah.
don't know, Kato, you might have a different
No, I totally
opinion.
agree. I think like DMing, you're fighting through a lot more noise to get there. So yeah, I totally agree. I had a thought and then I lost it. Uh, another thing that to add to what she's been saying is like things like Discord groups and meetup groups are great too. If you're not going out there in person, those are great ways to kind of join some kind of community that's interested in, music or audio or whatever it is. And for me, creating my YouTube channel was partially to cultivate that kind of just don't be afraid to show your enthusiasm about the topic, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Cool. So that's it for the clip I chose. I hope you guys liked it. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. And again, please go check out those links in the description. So it'll be for both Chrissy's stuff as well as the link to the full interview. So you can check that out if you're interested. So that's about it. I'd appreciate all the usual stuff. So like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I do have a Patreon, so it's patreon.com/CatoNoise. My patrons get access to some additional content. We've really been focusing on the Discord server lately and the book club. That's been a lot of fun. And for example, for this event, my Patreon patrons got notification in the feed as well as on our Discord about this event ahead of time. And they were also notified ahead of time about the premiere of this full interview on Socrates' channel. So if you want access to our Patreon Discord and all that extra lovely stuff, please feel free to check that out. It helps support my channel. I would really appreciate it. And thank you to all my patrons. And other than that, I come out with new videos every Wednesday, and thanks for hanging out. Okay.